Hi everyone, I think we are live. Thank you for joining us for this interview from the European Parliament in Strasbourg. We're joined by representatives of Collective, the film which was just this afternoon awarded the 2021 LUX Audience Award. A very warm welcome, director and producer Alexander Nanau, as well as artistic collaborator and survivor of the Collective disaster, Mihai Grecia. Very warm welcome to Strasbourg, to the European Parliament. Before we start with our interview, please do remember to post us your questions and comments. I'll put as many of them as I can to Alexander and Mihai in the coming 15 minutes or so. Alexander, congratulations, you have the prize in your hands.
Thank you,
Felicitari. Hope that my pronunciation is not awful. The New York Times described your film as masterly. Variety described it as explosive, while the Rolling Stone declared it a masterpiece. Within the past hour or so, you were awarded with this prize. How does it feel?
I think this is maybe one of the most special awards because it's really voted by European citizens and parliamentary members. So basically, it really combines the two parts of our society that need to communicate, need to speak, need to develop a common vision about the future that we wish for in Europe.
Mihai, the documentary film Collective, it's named after the Collective nightclub where there was a terrible fire and an investigation followed from it. You were a survivor of this disaster. Can you tell us a bit more about it and about the investigation afterwards?
Yes, I've been in the club during that night, and I was there in order to film the performance of my friends, the members of the band. And I'm also a filmmaker, and I try to help them. It proved to be a tragedy in the end, and after I finished with all the medical ordeals I had to pass through. I was invited by Alexander to join the team of the documentary, and we worked together to tell the story. Following the disaster, obviously there had been an investigation of the justice and also press. The team of Cătălin Tolontan and the Sports Gazette, you may see in our documentary, followed what happened, and they discovered some awful details regarding the dehumanization of the medical system and the institutions in general in Romania. And I think this theme is somehow valid for the whole international society. It's relevant, this idea of not of such a bad relation between the society and politicians and institutions, and we tried to expose in our story some of these aspects.
Alexander, Mihai just referred to Cătălin, who was the courageous reporter who led the investigation. He's also here in the European Parliament at the moment. Can you tell us a bit more about how, when you first met him, I believe he said no way when you suggested making a film. How did you convince him to get on board?
Yeah, basically they were the only journalistic team that started to investigate the manipulation and the lies of the healthcare system together with the government. That they can treat the patients, and they found out that they were lying about the treatment. They found out that the fire department lied about not knowing where the club was when in fact they authorized it to function without fire exits. And so we figured that in order to understand power and how power works, that's what we wanted to understand. How can people in power positions misuse their power and step so gravely over people's lives? And for an observation documentary, it was the best way to get access to an understanding about power through investigative journalists. And we had our own investigative team. We mapped, let's say, everything that was happening and different characters. And I think that in the end, they trusted our professionalism. And when they saw that observation documentary team is not a team of 100 people with lights that are storming the newsroom, and that it is a small team, they gained trust. And once we started, the revelations started so fast, and it became this vortex of corruption and revelations that basically we were all in it together, and we were hanging in the trenches with them, filming what was happening.
So Alexander, this film is about power and corruption, as you just mentioned. It's about the victims and the survivors, people like Mihai, but it's also, of course, about journalism. It's almost fitting, I think, that on the day, in the week when you were awarded the LUX Audience Award 2021, the whole building here in Parliament in Strasbourg is bedecked with images of Roman Protasevich, the Belarusian journalist who was abducted and detained following the forced landing of a flight in Minsk just over 2 weeks ago. I think that it's fair to say that filmmakers and journalists often face the same problems, the same political persecution. Do you think it's getting worse?
In some countries, yes, in the European Union. I mean, our story shows how a European Union country basically steps over people's lives through its state institutions and tries to silence basically not only whistleblowers but the press that reveals the truth about dysfunctional healthcare system. And yes, right now, nowadays, I think it's getting worse. We see in Romania how prosecutors start to go after journalists. Prosecutors that many times are in the case that there is now in Romania. There's a prosecutor prosecuting Tolontan and other journalists, and it happens to be the husband of the lawyer of the corrupt people they're writing about. So I think it's getting worse to see that in a European country, state institutions are abducted basically by those in power in order to attack the press and to attack the truth and to stop any truth about corruption.
Mihai, in the documentary film, we see very clearly the grief and the suffering and the pain of the survivors, of the loved ones, of the victims. Can you tell us a bit more about them, these people who survived and their families, about their grief and indeed their strength in dealing with the aftermath and the investigation?
Yes, maybe the most painful aspect of this of their situation is that no guilty person had been condemned. There are two trials currently. The first one deals with the causes of the accident, and the second one with the lack of ability of these authorities to manage the situations of the burned patients. That second file is still in the prosecutor's office. Nothing happens. It moves slowly, and the first trial is almost finished. But we still, after more than almost 6 years, we still do not have clarified the situation and to have the responsible persons punished somehow, and compensations for the victims. Nothing happened, and this is very painful for the persons who lost someone or who suffered from this tragedy. And this case has a huge importance for the Romanian society because people who is guilty of such a big tragedy must be punished in order to rebalance the whole system, and this is what the victims are passing through nowadays. Many of them are cured their wounds. Some of them are still under treatment, but their souls are still affected by the justice, who moves very, very, very slow.
So almost 6 years and still no justice. Now, do you think, for example, the film ends on a quite pessimistic note. Do you think that even if no justice has been reached, have there been changes in Romanian society? Do people view their politicians differently? Do people view the press differently, for example?
Yes, after Collective, the civil society woke up somehow. After several years, in 2017, people got in the street to protest against the tentative of the political class to change
penal
laws, the penal code and the laws of justice, what governs the judicial system. And Europe had seen the big square in Bucharest filled with people, with tens of thousands of people, with lights in their from the mobile phones, and protesting against this destruction of the judicial system. And after this, we had some protests where this repressive system of the Ministry of Interior Affairs had beaten the people in the street, and this happened in Europe.
In the European Union.
In the European Union, people woke up and started to be more and more conscious of these things and be more and more active in the civil society. On the other hand, we have NGOs in Romania which started to build hospitals instead of the Romanian state. Hospitals with money raised from people and companies, private companies. So
or a rock band Metallica donated $500,000 or
yes, $500,000.
So they're taking over the duty and the absence of care, basically,
that the state has.
Yeah.
They take over the state's mission that the state does not fulfill.
And I think, Alexander, one of the most interesting aspects of the film is indeed the portrayal of the inner workings of government. After the new health minister takes over, for example, we see that you really gain access to government. How did that work out? Was it because of the new health minister?
It was because it was during a technocrat government, and because this health minister was not part of any political party, so he was basically not bound by any political party to protect basically the inner workings. He was a patients activist before. He had a young team of professionals behind him that encouraged him to let us inside the ministry and really show how things are done inside the ministry.
Now, we are talking here in Strasbourg after over a year of pandemic. It's been a tough year for many people. It's been a tough year for the film industry. Yet, I think this week in some parts of Europe, cinemas are reopening. Do you think that things will go back to the way they were, or will people still be, for example, glued to online streaming apps, or will people flock to the cinemas as soon as they open? What do you see in terms of the future of the film industry?
I strongly believe that people will return to the cinemas. You know, it's a bit comparable to what we experienced during this year in Zoom calls versus meeting people in person. You know, we are tired of Zoom calls, and the same thing happens now with the streamers. People are tired to have to choose from hundreds of films. I think people need the cinema, need the experience of it. They like to have a curated program. They like to be surprised when they go to the cinema, and I think the human need to experience stories together, which is our need as sitting around a fire and telling ourselves stories about our life, I don't think that disappears. Maybe the numbers would look a bit different, but I strongly believe that it will go back to where it was. But that also means that we and state institutions have to help the cinemas and the businessmen that build up cinemas to really offer viewers a different experience. A cinema should become a place where you meet, where you want to spend time even after the film and talk. Cinema should become this place where we go because we share the lives of the stories of our lives.
I think we're all looking forward to going back to the cinema. I know that in Ireland they opened this week. In Belgium they also opened today, I think. Mihai, Alexandra, I'm not sure which of you would rather answer the question I have next, or maybe both of you. I know that you have, in the last few days in Strasbourg, had the opportunity, of course, to meet some of the other representatives of the films. Katalin also has been here. But in your exchanges with the other nominees, the two nominees, did you learn anything from them? How were those exchanges, meeting them?
I mean, these are both incredible films. I mean, they're really showing the best of European cinema, and with some of them we met even before in our, we had a parallel, let's say, campaign, a distribution campaign for the films. But every time you meet colleagues, it's enriching, and we all work more and more together, and for sure it's also an opportunity for us to get to know each other as human beings, not as producers or directors, and see how much we really would like to work together in the future.
I think let's leave it there. I know you have some other engagements. Thank you very much for joining us, Mihai and Alexander. A very big congratulations again, and we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavours. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. You should watch, of course, Collective if you haven't already seen it, the winner of the 2021 LUX Audience Award, along with the other two films which were nominated, Corpus Christi and Another Round. They have all been subtitled into all 24 European Union languages. You can check out our luxaward.eu website to find out how to watch them. Thank you for joining us. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.